Guys, welcome back to ESENtaxa. Andrea Papito here, and today we are going to discuss about the advanced tax ruling in Italy. If you're new to this channel, ESENtaxa talks about how to optimize your taxation in Italy and how to opt for special tax regimes that allows you to pay less tax possible. In certain cases, Italy became a tax heaven because it allows you to pay 1% taxes, 5% taxes, in some cases also 0% taxes. And here in ESENtaxa, we help you to understand if you have those requirements to apply for these special tax regimes. We also cover jurisdictions such as Portugal, Belgium, Albania and Republic of San Marino, and in the description below the video you have all of the information about how to contact us at our email info@esentaxa.com, our calendar link to book consultation calls, tax simulation, and also link to our video courses. Now, in this specific video, I want to talk about an instrument, a very important instrument that can be used by Italian taxpayer. Or also, if you're not Italian taxpayer and you want to ask in advance to the tax authorities if a certain specific behavior or a specific tax regime can be applicable or not for your specific situation, okay? So basically the Italian tax agency works also as a consultant. The problem is that you have to write your questions in a certain way, in a specific template, in a specific format, with a specific language, a legal language, which has some reference links to the laws, which are a lot of articles here and there. So you need to be having an assistance by a lawyer, a fiscal lawyer, and here in ESENtaxa we help and support people to write tax rulings that allows you to understand your specific situations. Now, how in general cases, how the tax rulings works in Italy. So we have two types of tax rulings. One is the ordinary tax ruling, so let's call it tax ruling, which has the Italian word as interpello. This is the Italian word. The tax ruling, basically, it's the situation where the parliament published a new law, tax law, and it's a little bit blurry. It's a brand new law. Nobody knows about how to apply correctly, and it creates certain doubts. Objective doubts, real doubts. In this specific case, you can ask an interpello. So you can check with the tax authority if a certain behavior, if that tax regime will work in my specific situation. For example, I work online for my company, but I want to relocate in Italy. I want to keep working for my company, but I want to apply for the impatriate regime. But the impatriate regime gives some restriction. But my specific situation maybe does not belong to any of that restriction, but it sounds a little bit, weird. I mean, in most of the cases, a lot of accountants could say, okay, your situation is not written in the law, don't care about it, continue to apply for this regime. But it's very risky because one day if someone else asks us for clarification and this clarification goes against your specific situation, then it's a problem. So it's always recommendable, in case you are in real doubt, to ask clarification to the Italian tax agency through a tax ruling, and this avoids you fine, legal interest and problem through future tax audit, okay? So the ordinary tax ruling in Italy is called interpello, and it can be used only when you have real doubts for a specific tax law that has been published recently. And a lot of interpello, basically a lot of tax rulings are used by the Italian tax agency then to produce a tax certifications, because the Italian tax agency had so many people asking for this doubt for clarification, then the tax agency realized that, okay, I gave you the answer to each one of you, but since it's a broad problem, let me clarify this law that the parliament didn't clarify. So I'm going to put a patch. I'm going to cover the case with my tax clarification. So the tax clarification either are coming from the Italian tax agency itself, because the legal lawyer in the Italian tax agency analyzing the law to recognize some holes, some loopholes, tax loopholes, or some holes that are not covering all the scenarios, or taxpayers ask for clarifications, and those clarifications basically asking for tax ruling, and multiple tax rulings they come, or also one tax rulings might be turning to a tax clarification later on. Sometimes the tax agency goes a little bit behind and some tax clarification goes against the law, and then it's the case where some accountant with tax lawyer, they anyway suggest to the client that don't follow always tax clarifications, because they in court you might win, but this is a real complicated scenario. I wouldn't recommend to follow it. But anyway, it's another story. So tax ruling, it can be done in advance as an Italian taxpayer when you want to apply for specific tax regime, but also when you want to apply in ordinary scenarios. When I'm having a company abroad, I'm not sure if certain operations might look like as recycling of black money, or I'm evading some VAT. I have some doubts, and I don't want to have problem in the future. I want to behave correctly before I have my behavior, my execution of my payment, or execution of my request for tax regime, etc., etc. The second type of tax ruling is the advance tax ruling with binding value, which is in Italian known as interpello probatorio. Very Latin words. Okay, so what does it mean? This is a more powerful tax ruling, and it's only applicable for specific tax regimes previewed by law or by the Italian tax agency itself. For example, if you apply for the famous high net worth individual tax regime in Italy, where you pay only 100,000 euro fixed tax and all your foreign income coming from abroad is excluded by ordinary Italian taxation, then you can ask in advance to the Italian tax agency if your specific and singular situation, so the Italian tax agency will take into account only your specific situation, works for this tax regime. And when the tax agency gives you an answer, it's bind this answer with your specific situation. There won't be any tax audit on your shoulder in the future, as long as you keep the behavior that you have described in the tax ruling, of course. If you behave differently, no. But in case the tax agency in the future wants to check you, they cannot do it because you ask a binding advance tax ruling. So I'm going to ask you in advance, can I do this? Can I behave in this certain way? Can I apply for this specific regime? Here there are involved a lot of money. We are talking about millions of euros, because it is high net worth individual flat tax for millionaires coming from abroad. So a lot of money is involved, and here the tax agency give to the future taxpayer who wants to move to Italy the possibility to understand in advance if they are doing everything correctly, properly, without breaking any law, and they will give you a binding response. Once they give you the response, a positive one, you are basically no problem, you won't have any problem in the future, and you can easily apply for this tax regime. These two tax rulings are the most famous one. For this one in general, you need 90 days of time to receive a response. For this one, 120 days. Now, here the Italian tax agency can give you a positive answer, a negative answer, or no answer for both cases. Okay, in case of positive answer, we know it's fine, everything fine. With negative answer, they might give you, ask you some integrative document in case you didn't write correctly and properly the tax ruling, or you didn't follow the schema, or you forgot to add some documentation that is mandatory for certain kind of scenario, to prove certain kind of scenarios. But in case the Italian tax agency doesn't give any answer at all, for waiting more than 120 days or 90 days in this case, this means that your description in the tax ruling is automatically accepted. Okay? So I think this information can be quite useful for you in case you want to ask in advance behaviors or be binding with certain tax audits with the Italian tax agency. If you want to be assisted with this kind of tax ruling, let us know in the description below the video. Write us at info@esentaxa.com. We can assist you to write the proper tax ruling correctly with the correct reference to the laws, describing as best as possible your specific situation, and receive, of course, a positive answer from the Italian tax agency. Thank you for having watched this video. Don't forget to subscribe, notification bell and like button in order to be always updated for free whenever we release this kind of content. Thank you, see you to the next time.